All right, what's going on? It's Winslow. It's been a minute. I know I missed you too, but here we go. This video, we're gonna do a quick little overview over my tune Orange Cat Riddim, which came out earlier this year on Goldfat. It's a nice little soulful roller, goofy kind of thing. You know, my usual brand. This will be very like kind of big picture, not diving into a lot of things. But if you want me to, have a video diving into how I put all the breaks together, or like how I came up with the basses, or anything, just let me know down there in the comments, or DM on any kind of social media platform, which you can find down there in the comments and the description. Come on, it's been so long since I've done YouTube. Anyway, if you like what you see, Patreon's always an option. Also down there, not the comments, but the description. And helps me out, shows a bit of support. You get things like these in advance. And speaking of Patreon, all the drum samples in this project, as loops, processed, whatever, are available on there in a little mini sample pack. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go there. But until then, here we go. So this is a project. This is what it looks like. This is what it fully looks like. Yeah, let's just jump right in. So first things first, let's look at some drums. Again, if you want to listen to this whole thing, links in the description. I'm not going to sit here and play it for you because that would be weird. And it's not like I haven't done that before. But anyway. All right, so drums sound like this basically. Pretty standard, just like rolling old school break with like a modern edge kind of feel. And that's all I really wanted. I'm not 100% satisfied with like the drums. They could be a little bit more, like I could go down a laundry list of things, but they serve a purpose to keep the groove, to keep things rolling along. And they're one half of the drums and bass, which is this genre. So quick little thing, if we zoom in, I got a kick. Wrong thing. Anyway, kick. Just a singular kick. This one's specifically from that Lensman sample pack that came out on Loop Masters years ago. Nothing crazy on it, a little bit of EQ. If I take it off, what does it sound like? Yeah. I just mellowed it out to really fit in the mix. That's all it is. Nothing too much. There's two, if you guys know, it's all zoomed in, but like you have like main kicks, and you have like one with a little bit less volume or velocity if you stick it in the sampler. So you can have like a ghost kick kind of effect, but nothing crazy here. Standard. All right, we got clap. Clap layer from a break. Together they sound like. Cool. Again, no crazy amount of processing. It's just like making things fit. This is very much like just make it functional, make it danceable, kind of deal. If you watch any other ones, you know what I mean when I'm saying like, I didn't do a whole lot, because sometimes I go entirely too far. All right. And then the main break, I believe, is this one. I just named it Fat Break, but it's like from some CD sample pack. Yep. And if I take, all I did was EQ it. Just to take out like the low. Oh wait, there's a little bit more. Let me see, because it's bust. In the percussion, we'll talk about. Okay. So that's what it sounded like by itself. But I just EQ'd it basically to make room for the kick and the clap and the rest of the tune, because that's how mixing works. Got some hi-hats. Nice little swingy, shuffly groove. Open hi-hat on the end. Little comics break. Shuffly think break. with a little bit of delay. Because I just like how that kind of helps fill in gaps in the middle. Like it's not too loud when it's not there. Let's say we have all the percussion going. That's without the delay. With the delay, it sounds like, which you might say, Duncan, that sounds the same. It basically does, but like there's little pockets here and there where maybe something else isn't going on, but that delay kind of comes out of the mix, and it fills in space pleasingly, but not in like a hey, pay attention to me. A little out of that. Basic bongos just to add a little bit of something. Loop to just fill in space. My loop from Everything and More. That's what the little naming is. That sample pack's also on Patreon, cross promoting and all that. Yeah. Then we got a open hi-hat, and all together sounds like. And like occasionally we have other breaks. Like here, you got this one, which sounds like if you're using headphones, and you should with these, because there's no way like your iPhone speaker can. Anyway, I'm like really cutting out, just kind of like, yeah, wait, what is this? Not what is this as in bad, but no, it's from I Know What I'm Doing. I did it in another project, is where like I split it like mid side, really cut out the mid, so all you get is like the airy high end, top end, and like the stereo information. And that's just to like really bring space to the middle where the kick, the snare, the clap, the centered breaks are. Adds a little bit of air, a little bit of space, a little bit of room without actually adding like a reverb, even though there's a reverb on this, on some of these drums. Is there any other? Oh, shaker go burr. It's my favorite shaker. Pan slightly to the left, tickling your left ear. Yeah, it's my favorite thing. By itself, it doesn't sound like much, but even if I just like play it with kicking the snare, it's there. And then stick a little hi-hat in there, it completes like the groove. And there we go. So, drums are nothing special in this case, but it's a lot of layers that work together and contribute to the overall like break, the overall like all that bit. Like I like a lot of top end like that, a lot of percussion, a lot of like washy but kind of clean sound, like not like think Lensman, anything North Quarter kind of style, that kind of thing and beyond. But yeah, that's basically drums. There's a couple fills here and there, but like, you really want me to talk about a fill? All right, you can figure that one out. Okay, let's go move on. Let's move on the bass. Okay, actually wrong. Let's not move on the bass. There's a bit of processing here and there, but like with the percussion, it's going through tape, soft tube tape plugin. If this will open, got the little wheel. There we go. Not doing much. It adds a bit of body, a bit of compression, and I'm not rolling off any of the top end. But using this plugin does kind of get rid of those like digital highs. They can kind of like pop up, especially with like breaks, a lot of breaks, like a top end break of the breaks. I'm like all over the place. A lot of the top end of the breaks, and it just kind of pleasingly rolls that high end off, so it's not like tinnitus in 30 seconds. Low end de-essing again gets rid of like the sizzly bit of the percussion, and that's kind of it. Full drums, if I play just the loop without any processing on it, all right, and see how that delay comes up? Boom, that's the point. Now with processing, sounds like this. So not a drastic difference, but what I am doing is kind of pulling the parts together, a little bit of compression, a little bit of saturation, You know, just that slight limiting of the dynamic range, which it's a break that's going consistent through the whole track. I don't really care about dynamics. It's about consistency because that's what the track needs. Um, yeah, it's kind of pulling these parts together, making them feel more like a whole. And yeah, like my favorite thing to do is this. I put this on all my drums. Is the Supercharger GT from Native Instruments, Dirt and Punch, a little bit of compression. It's like one or two, but it really helps kind of pull the sound together. Plus, it gives me a character that I really like from the Dirt button. This was like free years ago for Black Friday. There's a paid version that's like $50. Gives you a little bit more functionality, but you know, I don't need that because I just needed to do the one thing that I like. And then we got Saturator, which adds a little bit of umph. You know what I mean? From Melda, it's free. Mag EQ, kind of balance it, mids and the lows. I know I'm blurring through this. A little bit of EQ, no stereo information in the low end, balances peaks and all that kind of stuff. Radiator, another one of my favorite plugins, just adds a little bit of grit, a little bit of analog kind of character. I'm not going to say warmth because that means nothing. It's just a buzzword for Waves to sell you plugins that you already bought, but now you have to buy another one because they updated to like V13 or something. I don't know. Do I sound bitter? Sibilance, speaking of Waves, yeah, kind of gets a little bit, like mellows a little bit more of that like 10K range where there's a lot of like and like the claps and stuff that are accentuated by the compression and things. So I'm just kind of taming here and there, not really altering the sound too much, but just like controlling it. It's all about control. K-clip is just clipping it a little bit for control, and then another limiter to get those stray peaks because mastering is a thing later on. All right. Other stuff is utility plugins. That's like volume and fade. And this helps me kind of visualize what the break looks like. All right. So that's my drums. There's a couple videos on the channel specifically about drums and how I put them together. And if you kind of want to see the evolution of how I've been doing it over time, I think there's at least like one or two a year where I just focus on drums. You can kind of see how my process has been refined over time. If you want to look at something like that. All right. So that's drums. Who cares? Bass, which is really simple. All right. So it sounds like this. And it's basically the same thing over and over. So this is audio now. I'm not really going to go into how I made the bass because it is very much the same in every single project. So it's a triangle wave in silent with a little bit of saturation. That's it. Triangle wave, silent, a little bit of saturation, a little bit of low pass to get rid of the artifacts that saturation causes. It's trash too, which is the saturation on like, I don't know, soft saturation, that setting. I'd show you, but like it's not interesting. It just is, it's purposeful, it's a sub, it's what it is. Bass guitar, I played in, you can see, well, you can't because I already bounced it, but like all these little, I'm not a bass guitar player, but like I could play this, you know, 8-bar riff in, and then, you know, cut it and time it, and then I consolidated it in one file. But that's all it is. Without anything, it sounds like clean bass guitar. I think it's like a Squire bass. Yeah, process through guitar rig to give me a sound. Supercharger again, beef it up. EQ roll out the low end because I have a sub for that. And then compressor again, they'll just level it out because some of like my playing is like the attack is, you know, just a little too much and it would like cause pops and like weird things against the kick and everything else. So I'm really just like shoving it in there and just, you know, I want the sound, but I don't want it to like interfere with everything else. And then another just like high pass. It's automated because in the intro I have the full bodied sound, I think. Or maybe I'm lying. Nope, it's in the break, right? No, I'm just lying. I don't know. It's somewhere. It's being automated or something. Let's find out. Oh, it's at the very end. Okay. Yeah, that's when I get it full body. That's like the outro when like the cat's singing and stuff, or I am. Yeah, nothing crazy there. Two other basses are like mid bass kind of synthy sounds. They're really quiet. You can't see them. Like a saw wave through like a phaser, more or less, with a Studio One built-in synth. This is the M84. Let me make this an instrument and we can look at it. Always freeze your tracks because it lets that CPU go. So it's this synth. If it pops up, Soft Tube M84, one of my favorites. Just a preset with loads of plugins. Without any plugins, sound like kind of cat-like. If you remember, like it's like back in the day, like we'd all like pirate stuff off the internet and find free synths. There's like the cat synth that had like the cat on the thing, and like you hit it, just meow. But it's basically like an acidy kind of sound. That's basically what I went for. Way before this song was called like Orange Cat Riddim, and it was just like it's an interesting sounding sound. And then stacked with plugins, you kind of lose the cat effect, but I like what came out of it. Yeah, chorus, Camel Crusher, some EQ, just make it gross, and then you get the sound you get. Turn it back to audio. Altogether, bass sounds like. Yep, it's just following like the root notes, not the root note of the chord, but just like the sample that I'm about to get into. Yeah, it's functional. It serves a purpose. It's not like, wow, that was crazy sound design. So that's the bass. Together with the drums, sounds like. So like the drums are kind of down the middle if you're talking about stereo field. And then so is the sub and the low end and a little bit of that grit in that mid bass. But then a lot of it's also wide as well to kind of fill up the spectrum. That's what I was going for. Especially in this section where the main sample isn't playing. So I wanted something that, filled the space, filled the void. I don't know. As a headphone user and listener and all that and producer, like I like how things, fill up space and like encompass, I don't know, I'm getting it, like my hearing. Like you feel like it's all around you instead of like in front of you, if that makes sense. And it sounds cool on the dance floor too, because that's what all this is about. All right, so let's get to the samples and stuff like that. All right, so this main sample sounds like this. That's not how it sounds. Well, that's just how it sounds, but it's filtered. Let me actually turn it on because I had to bounce it out, and I'll show you a little bit of how I chopped it and stuff like that. Enable track. That's what I'm looking for. Duncan, aren't you like a pro? You get paid the big bucks. No, I don't. Come on now. All right. I'll cheer out sounds with no plugins. I'll slap on some plugins. We'll see. Here we go. Pretty simple. This is just one section of the tune. Very long sample, or a long loop. Then we get to the techie part, which is where all these little chops come in. All right, so Duncan, why are all these chops here if it just sounds like one long sample? Well, I mess with it enough to where it sounds like one really long unaltered sample that you can't really tell where the chops are. You know, the best editing in a movie are the edits you don't see, and this is that version of that. If I try and think it is, if I just play it out, it's the same. No, it's not. So the whole all the chops aren't that long, but I basically chop kind of every chord change, and I'm really chopping like the bass line because there's no drums. So every single chop is kind of landing or like on a kick or a snare, depending on how it needed to line up. So if I just add the kick and snare in, so I didn't need to chop it every single kick and snare because sometimes like it lined up just right. You know, the Goldilocks method. Well, there's a fly in here. Come on, man. You're messing up my take. Jesus. Anyway, so like if it didn't perfectly line up, all I would do is chop it where the chord change is, nudge it over to where the kick was or the snare, and then do a little bit of time stretching so it seemed cohesive. Because if I like left click or right click and show me like my time stretching, it's also pitched down, but you know, who cares? So like this one's what, 0.45 sped up. This one's 0.97, not sped up at all. This section, this 78. So it's really just like finding your chops, lining up the hit points more or less, and then kind of filling in the gaps with slight time stretching. And if you have like, when the bass line like moves a lot, there's more chops because I don't want to like, I still want the bass to be felt like it's played in time with the rest of the tune. So it's like, if you watch any of these, you know, I'm just like, I need the timing to be right because timing is groove and groove is everything. Groove is in the heart. They made a whole song about it if you didn't know. And to reach your heart, the groove's got to be there. All right. So that's all these chops really are. It's just for the timing to be absolutely right. Not on the bang on the grid, but bang together with everything else is going on. And in that case, the most rhythmic thing of this song are the drums. So I need everything to fit together that way. That makes sense. Like even that, I sat here and like time stretched it and looked at this waveform. It was like 1 and 2 and 1, and I just lined it up. I just sat here, did a little wrong button. It's not gonna do it because it's crossfaded, but delete it. Duncan, just do the thing. I just went like wrong button. Boom, 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 boom. Like this. I stretched it out. Nice. Look at that. Flexible wave. And I just made sure like each little bass pluck like lined up and pluck. That's it. Come on, man. It's a bass. It's not a violin that I'm used to every day. But yeah, that's it. So once I found like my different sections are colored. So like this one's is the longer like kind of Rhodes loop that was in the sample. See, that's different, like different section. Over here, it's a completely different section. Kind of sung choir-like. The sample, for those who want to know, is The Woods by Frank Dukes. I get all these off TrackLib because it's easy to clear these samples, and I don't want to get sued for money I don't have. Yeah. That's that. If you want like a discount or something on TrackLib, like I'm not sponsored by them, but if you have a TrackLib account, they give you like a little referral code for like if someone signs up, you know, I get a couple little like tokens or whatever, but it's like spliced to where I have thousands of them because that's how they do it. But anyway, discount for you, discount for me. One hand washes the other. Let's continue. Then there are just loads of effects to clean it up because this sample isn't really just going to fit in the tune. Because like if I play it without any effects, already too much low end. So what we do, we get rid of that low end, get rid of some of that wide stereo information in the bottom. It sounds like. And then we go, what? Another EQ, shaping. Again, it's functional. It's not supposed to like, wow. You know what I mean? I just want it to fit. Nice little unfiltered plugin. Helps get rid of some resonances. And not really that part, but when we got like the singing woman, just kind of dials it back again. All these samples are like old, like vinyl rips, or well, some of them are like this is old, like 70s soul, and sometimes they just have weird like artifacts and resonances that don't fit in the context of like a hyper clean, more or less drum and bass kind of tune. Then we got Unfil or Brainworks, the stereo maker. Give it some dimension, take it from being mono, more or less, and make it a bit brighter, a bit wider. Same thing, a little stereo thing. Then we got reverb. Kind of fills in that gaps with a bit of a room. And then Camel Crusher to crush it. You can't see it because, if you're aware, like Camel Crusher on Mac is not a thing anymore. And then filter because it's not drum and bass without a filter. Can't even hear it. It's coming. There it is. Because in this section, I replayed in some chords and stuff. And then a delay, EQ, sausage fattener, the works. Who cares? You probably do because you're watching this. And then I just made a little stem of it. So it's all audio and it's not really eating my CPU, but it's just like, it's easier to manage. Nice. As far as sampling goes, there's a couple other patterns like over here, which are just different like loops I was trying to figure out. I think this one it's reversed and pitched down. And like when you're sampling and you like reverse stuff, you pitch it down, you do all this stuff, you can kind of discover different riffs and bass lines and things that weren't there necessarily in the beginning, but that's the beauty of sampling. Here's where I like finally figured out the chop. Like the first version of it. And then when you put drums to it, you have to go back in and time every little thing. But then you're like, Duncan, why don't you just like get a keyboard, like an MPC or something like that? Well, I am one of those people who just likes going in and cutting it hand by hand, like cutting it like with a mouse and like lining it up. And I feel like with this, at least with this kind of sample, it works that way in that with drum and bass, with the timing, with me being me, it just gives me a lot more control. Although like using a keyboard and like chopping it across the keyboard or like MPC style is there to catch a vibe. But this, I just kind of had the idea in my head already. It's really straightforward. Timing is the only issue. So that's a sample. Cool. So we're a half hour in. Again, if you like what you see, Patreon down there. Get sample packs, all that kind of deal. If you want like a one-on-one session with me, we can work on drum and bass, work on any kind of genre, in any DAW, at any level of skill, whether you're a pro, if you're caliber, you need some help, and somehow you think I can help you, Dominic. I'm using first names, even though we've never met. I've stood next to you before. You probably didn't know that, though. You were too busy. You and DRS, killing it, all as usual. But for us normal people, if you want to learn from a homie, me, Winslow, Duncan, Mr. Winslow during the day. Patreon, it's all there. Come hang out. So let's get back to it. Couple more samples. Actually, there's no more samples. What am I lying? There's a Rhodes I played in. It's the chords. Yeah, you can see it was an instrument. I froze it, transformed it, whatever your term of is, depending on your DAW. Yeah, nothing crazy. It's OPW, so it's the Oliver Patrice Vader keyboard samples from Spitfire. It's like a $30 expansion or something. It's not like one of the full Spitfire deals, but it gave me the sound I wanted with a bunch of extra like lo-fi crunch I added on. Then there's an organ from Contact, one of like the basic ones. Same chords, some different voicings because the organ needed, you know, depending on the tones you're using, like sometimes you want to place notes in other ways. Keyboard player stuff, which I am not one. Strings from Contact. What are we doing? Yeah, nothing crazy. Just like a nice ascending line. So it's like it replaces the need for like a riser because this is an EDM. That was a jab I didn't need to throw. But you know, increases energy and tension and all that during the breakdown. Yeah, and then the cat comes out, meow, meow, meow. I don't know how I didn't realize it sounded like a cat, like meowing, until like the tune was already out, and I was trying to think of like promo ideas. Yeah, but that is the full tune, sans like these white noise risers and stuff like that. There's this like breakdown bits I have. These are just drums. It's like, is it the regular drum loop? It's just like a halftime drum loop from like Splice. Funky drummers in there. Another chunk of the tune I sampled that was kind of obscured and ambient in the beginning and the ends, like the outros, and I just like used it for that, you know? And then it slowly degrades as the thing builds. Basically, I'm really pushing it hard into the tape plugin. So the more it's like pushed into the plugin, like volume wise, it's just compressed and distorted and just, you know, made really gross. And felt like a cool effect. It's like, I don't know, it adds a little bit of urgency, a little bit of intensity to it. And that is it. That's the whole tune. That's Orange Cat Riddim. Mix wise, you know, I always throw the whole mix once I'm finished through like analog heat, sitting on my desk, just to give it a little bit of analog heat. Keyword. No, but it just kind of like really pulls it together. It takes it out of the computer and then puts it back in a, you know, goes into the real world, real circuits, things like that. It's not some magic thing you need, but for me, the character I want, it adds the character, you know, gives me something. Send it off to Bob Mack for mastering because that's what Goldfat uses, and then you have a tune. That's it. All right, cool. So if you want to know some more about this tune or anything specific, or maybe break it down, all these things, because people have questions, I'm people, just let me know in the comments. Can make follow-up videos, which will most likely be to Patreon members on there, and then, you know, we'll slowly trickle into YouTube as I make more things. But as always, I'm Winslow. I'm gonna keep being me. You keep being you, your beautiful self, and I will catch you in the next go around. Later.